looking forward to this because I see Jared's posts on Instagram, and as you guys know, with Substack, I've been reaching out to some of our other very talented voices to start building this sort of confederation of awesome. And man, did he get my attention the other day with something that pissed me the fuck off, which is starving our fucking soldiers. Oh man. Um, as you guys know, I live in Kyiv. I've been in 1,494 days of full-scale war. We're at 1,539 days of full-scale war for the Ukrainians. And you know what we don't do? We don't starve our guys. Um, there have been logistical problems at different times with rations from the beginning, and it's because we have a very different situation here when it comes to resources compared to America's great military. But they get remedied. They get remedied with a bit of a fervor. And I've told you before, and my belly proves it. No one here is going to let you starve. It's just not a thing. Um, and when you take basically the number one military in the world, and you let that happen, I mean, absolutely gross. But I think that Jared's work over there, like I said, I haven't really, I hadn't seen him on the Substack. He was one of the people I'm always seeing on Instagram. And I said, hey, you know what? We need to go talk about that. Also, his other posts are really insightful. So I want you tonight when we're on, number one, subscribe, get those numbers up. Jared's numbers are about 500 something subscribers. We want to see that at 1,000. Let's set a mile marker like we did with this account. I just hit 1,350 or something. I forget the number right in front of me. Actually, hold on. I have it right here in the browser. I shall tell you. 1,354, 104 paid subscribers. So you're really making a difference when it comes to building your own news network by doing this. We don't need to be dealing with the way we dealt with, CNN, MSNBC. The people have failed you. We're going to do it, by directly going live with those same voices that you got used to seeing over at, the professional, supersized corporate networks. And as you know, I've worked within the shadows of that. I've even been on those networks, and it's sad. They're stenographers. I mean, ultimately, they're stenographers. I watched that Major Garrett interview because our friend Egberto asked me to give an opinion. And when I was seeing a guy just basically, have Netanyahu in front of him and not push back on a fucking thing. I mean, we took out everything, but we still have to do more. What? Also the main question, if you remember my conversation with Egberto, he said, what would you ask? I said, what's your strategy? For fuck's sake, you got to have a strategy. Trump is that guy, right? Trump is that guy that launches an attack to take out Qasem Soleimani, but has no strategy. He's just like shits and giggles, right? And it's no secret to all of you that I am no fan of drunk ass Pete Hegseth. There was a superior male named Lloyd Austin III who had big old stars on that shoulder, right? If you remember our former Secretary of Defense, he was a actual qualified voice. And so I think one of the things that I think is so important here is that since Jared's also former military, I want to hear, and this is one of my ambitions recently, is I want to hear from guys who have done the service of what it feels like. So, hey, bro, what's up?
How you doing?
Well, we're actually about to have more attacks. We've been under attack all day with missiles and drones. We've actually had a drone SWAT all day, keeping our entire country red. And I posted earlier, it's like watching Texas. I'm from Houston. It's like watching Texas be under drone swarms, hundreds of drones all day long. And then now, as we predicted they would, once they try to exhaust a lot of air defense energy, tonight there's MiG-32, MiG-31s in the air, and it's full scale war. But then when I turn on, one more thing is when I turn on my phone and I see America, that's when I actually stress the fuck out.
We haven't because it's normal now, right? There, you guys are just
so new normative, we're like, oh, let Oh, okay, get your coffee. Yeah, oh, but for me, the stress is turning on the phone. Guy, he did what? So yeah, that's
Yeah, he's a character. Um, my God. I mean, well, first of all, thanks for having me on, especially
absolutely, man.
during what I know you're going through. I'm not sure if you can tell me exactly where you're located, but
I'm in Kyiv.
oh,
I'm in
so
the
Kyiv is
capital.
actually getting wow. Okay,
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, and they didn't hit us hard. They hit like actually what they're doing now is also they're running those swaths north of the city. So our alarms go off because those few drones will go over what's called like there's an area here called Vishgorod, which technically is in the city oblast, but they're flying over the north of us and going directly to the west. So they were at the perimeter of NATO boundaries today. Lutsk boundaries right up to Poland, Belarus to the north and Poland to the west. And this is why occasionally you'll see those reports where they'll say a drone lands in Romania, a drone lands in Poland. And when they're pushing it that far out, they're they're doing a couple things. They're reconning for incoming logistical lines. I'm pretty sure that's mostly their pattern. And then trying to find various infrastructure items. Maybe they're looking for storage bins. Who knows what. They're not trying to take our power facilities like they were in the winter. They're now shifting to other targets.
how's the
Uh,
military doing as far as supplies goes on the ground? From what you understand, you're
I mean,
military.
it sucks. It sucks. And I'm a civilian. I'm a civilian counterterrorism guy. But I know the military system here very well after 4 years, and I never left. So I have like a kind of ingrained knowledge of a lot of things that are really hybrid compared to what the American military would have. As you know, being a former military guy, if you wanted a McDonald's next door to the base, you'd probably be there within a short period of time if some commander really wanted it, right? That type of stuff doesn't exist here. But what does happen is an organic engineering wing of Ukrainianness that just keeps improvising with some other way of trying to countermeasure the war. And we have it's not even a kill zone. I mean, it's a 20-kilometer plus wide gap that is called the front. That no one goes in there. I have friends that now walk to their positions because there's no way to get, even like an L-200 anywhere near there without it being detected. So it's pretty fucked up.
How
But
far
they're
away is
holding
that from
positions.
Kyiv?
I mean, it's a good, the front itself, as we've been thinking along from the east down to the southeast
Yeah,
is approximately 7 to 8 hours, basically.
by car.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay,
But the
man.
positions that Russia wants, like in Sloviansk and Kramatorsk, essentially they just promised, in fact, for our viewers today, the military leadership of Russia promised Putin that they would finish taking the rest of Donbass by fall. They've been promising this for the last 4 fucking years. They're not doing it because
No,
of
Russia's having
Sloviansk. They're
it's
not.
surprising how hard of a time Russia is, and I don't mean that as any disrespect to anybody in Ukraine or the Ukrainian
Yeah,
military. It's just, but Russia has made themselves seem like this massive world force that could, basically topple any government within 24 hours. And
right.
it is incredible to see how, from the beginning, how Ukraine mobilized, how the people, I mean, became united and
Yeah,
basically have been giving Russia fucking hell. I mean,
absolutely.
and they still are. And and I know war is hell.
Yeah.
And I feel like I can say that. But this is different. This is trench warfare we're talking about. And, the creativity that the Ukrainian military has had to come up with to keep an edge, which they've been able to do,
Hmm.
is really fascinating.
And
And it's not what
they're
we're talking about today. I know, but I just wanted to say to someone who's there.
oh man, it's open. And actually, one of the things I want to say is you're free to put things on the table you see that are in the space because I know that you cover a lot of good topics. And I'll say this about the Ukrainian military. I think it found its own spirit along the way, the hard way, where, especially with Trump playing shit the last year, where, as you know, survival is not a rational part of a human being. It's the instinct level of human being, right?
Absolutely.
And it's really kicked in here in a way that the defensive force will always have the upper hand. This is as been as true for warfare as forever. And what is the motivation for a Russian to come across and see something that's not theirs anyway? It's that the back of their head is another Russian saying, "If you don't do it, Blatty, I'll fucking blow your fucking head off." That's pretty much the motivator. That's not a motivator, not really. Um, it's not what we have here.
No, I mean, saving no, no. What I mean, that you're right about defense will always have the upper hand. I mean, nobody wants to be oppressed. Nobody wants to lose their freedom, their country, their sovereignty. They don't want, where their families and generations of their families have, grown and, lived life. So no, you're totally right. And then as soon as that war started, I was like, this will be the biggest mistake he ever makes for
Yeah,
himself,
yeah,
his military, his country. This will literally go down in history. Like people are like, "Oh no, they're going to defeat Ukraine." And I was like, I will tell you right now that
yeah.
they will not defeat Ukraine because Ukraine will fight to the last man. Just like any
Well said.
occupied territory will fight to the last man. And
Right.
this is going to be the biggest stain that that guy could possibly have on his name and his country.
And the longer it goes on, the
The
more he
worse.
can't get that like I was watching this thing about poisoned toads in Australia, some weird thing that YouTube like to put up one day, where about a century ago, well, we have problems with our sugar cane, so we're going to import some toads to take out the grubs, and then they had this poisoned toad problem that was choking alligators, and when I
Oh
saw the
God.
first, I saw this first video, I went, "Is that an alligator with a? It died of a toad?" And I went, "That's Ukraine." Like that's Ukraine in Russia's throat. And I've had that metaphor stuck in my system for the last couple of years where the longer Russia tries to consume what it cannot consume, the more it dies. And it's a really sick metaphor on the sense of like I have no sympathy for Russians of any kind at this point. It's just not where I'm going to be. But if those people like Trump keep saying, "Well, I'm so tired of the bloodshed," like, well, then actually you have to defeat the Russian Federation like we did with Germany and like we did with Japan. I'm sorry that that's the reality, but that's the
Oh
fucking
no, it's totally the
reality.
reality, but no one's gonna. Everybody's talk. Everybody's all talk. I mean, look, if and I say this as a military veteran and an
Exactly.
infantryman,
Right.
and I could totally be wrong, but I feel like if he mobilized 3,000 Marines and sent them into Ukraine to push back the front of Russia, I just feel as if, I mean, first of all,
Yeah.
Marines are very good at what they do. We're
Yeah.
very, very good, just like you guys are very, very good at what your soldiers do. And I'm just thinking that maybe the morale of having those Marines show up and then them just pushing forward with Abrams, with everything that we have at our disposal, which is ridiculous. Um, I feel as if we would be in Russian territory within
Yeah.
probably a week.
Yeah. If that had been, I have some criticisms of the last administration's pensive way of approaching it, which my viewers have covered for quite a while. But we're not in that area anymore, so I don't talk about that anymore. I talk about where we're currently at with
Right.
drunk ass Pete Hegseth. But over my shoulder is the 501 Battalion, part of the 36 Marines. Five. This is because I focus on our POW stories. But here we use the phrase "morski piechota," basically Marine infantry. And my friends, like my regular co-host on Fridays, Sean Penner, was also 36 Marines. I love these guys, and I love them with all my heart because I've seen what they can do. I've seen how human they are, how remarkably human they are in the middle of everything else. But man, grit is not even the term for what I see with their determination, their focus and their adjustment. And our wonderful general, Lieutenant General Mark Hertling, criticized the commanders here one time. He's talking about how that's not how you use an Abrams. And I went, "Oh, that's so American." Hold on. So Ross is like, "What do you mean I can't take out building with Abrams?" Hold on, no, watch. Really, you can't watch. There's just ways the Ukrainians do shit that is so uniquely Ukrainian that every American gets their shit checked at the door here. And I know a lot of guys who come from to join the Legion and fight. and they all get their compass reoriented after the years of GWOT, fighting, where they're like, oh man, no, like literally, we just don't do it that way. Everything we thought we knew
Well,
about
it's
warfare is
I
upside
think it's
down.
a the reason being too is you guys are literally fighting for sovereignty. You're
Amen.
fighting to keep your country. I mean, like when I was in Iraq and everything was so bureaucratic. It was bullshit. I mean, it's like, well, you can't use that missile on a car because that is like a $700,000 piece of ordnance. That's a $10,000 car. Load it
Right.
with full of lead. You know what I mean? Where
Yeah.
it's like,
Yeah.
oh, and we started that conflict, so we get to watch our money. Where you guys are
Yeah.
literally fighting for your sovereignty, for your lives. It's like, no, if
Right.
I can take out a fucking building with an Abram, I'm gonna go take out the building with an Abram. I mean, don't. There's no right or wrong way to use this machinery as long as it works. Then that's
Right.
all
Right.
that matters. I love that. I love that. I mean,
My friend
I hate
McCullough,
that you have to do that, but you know what I mean.
of course. My friend McCullough Melnick, who's was the commander of the 47th Magura, he's a Bradley commander. And he goes to America often to talk about this war and how Americans' lessons should be learned from it and try to build some bridges. He's a great guy. And he gets these commanders to say things like, well, how many Bradleys do I need to take out a T-90? He goes, what? Like, no, 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 we don't do that. Like, you could top pop it with like 3 drones, and cost of $1,500. Why would I waste an Abrams like that? No, I use a Bradley. Why would I use a Bradley like that? I could use Bradley like this. And they're like, no. He goes, and he knows because they've done it. They do it over and over again. They don't fight that way because it essentially is a lot cheaper, like you just said, ordnance, to throw about $1,500 to $2,000 maximum worth of drones at top of an expensive piece of machinery. And as you see with the Ukrainians, they're taking out like multi-million-dollar radar systems and a lot of stuff with just a few $100s worth of gear that I've seen organically build from the beginning. And the guy used to work with that I told you about, when I first got here, he goes, "Well, Chris is a drone expert," and I am. Like, I didn't know that was true. I am a drone pilot, but he knows that back in the day with ISIS, I was monitoring all of those videos and breaking them apart, like frame to frame, basically 1,500 plus videos. I know, like an encyclopedia. And the first time they dropped a munition, a little hand grenade, basically from a drone, I went, "Did you see this video? Yeah, fucking drop it like annoyances at first. It was annoyances. Then they were slightly lethal, and then it became more lethal. But nothing like we saw develop in 4 years here. And one of my teammates here actually develops drones. So we have a drone documentary called The Art of Drone Warfare, basically showing that advance over the last 4 years. And it is really, really amazing how the ingenuity is what's causing it. And who knows Russian military system better than Ukrainians who were in the same exact system?
Yeah. Yeah, and
They know the
again,
logistical
that's what I
supply
meant
lines,
to that's
everything.
what I was trying to convey is the fact that Russia is you guys they're taking out these multi-million dollar systems with I mean, I'm surprised it's 1,500. I
Yeah,
figured just a
even less than
DJI
that, right?
drone with a little modification taking out something that's
Yeah.
multi-million dollars is pretty amazing.
Yeah, and we have civilians, and it's a little controversial because I do remind people laws of war. If you have civilians at home, like I could have someone in my building for all I know, who's basically sitting there all day long printing out the raw body of an FPV, simple drone, and they're doing it nonstop. I've been in buildings throughout the country that have, up to 10 to 15 printers just working on the chassis. And then eventually, what really got amazing was when I started seeing people making the components, because getting the components like the Chinese components was becoming more and more difficult. So
Makes
what
sense.
Ukraine has especially done is start making the very components and then working the initiatives so that that is the ambition, which removes the dependency upon the West. So all of a sudden, instead of the taker country, which no one wanted here, it's what kind of cards would you like?
Yeah, no, yeah,
Who's got the
exactly.
cards now, honey? So, but I gotta tell you, our friends are showing up, so we got almost 20 here. I want to get into something that I just think that this is what made me reach out to you, because instead of just being a spectator for your great work, and
Thank you.
again, great respect for what you've been doing, man. I really like what your posts have been. But I'm gonna start with what happened in the last 24 hours. Is that the video I watched got yanked?
Yeah, it did.
So let's tell our viewers, in case they haven't heard what you uncovered. We're going to talk about what was it you uncovered. and some After Effects. And then you could tell about how this video, out of 2,000 something videos you put up, was the one that got pulled.
Yeah, so I've been doing independent journalism for over a year now. Dropped
Mhm.
everything as my way of honoring the oath I took, to defend the Constitution. So that's what I'm doing. Um, and I've broken several stories, involving different ICE agents and cops and, people of power abusing power and hurting people, killing people.
Mhm.
So people, obviously not saying who gave me the information, keeping that, between me
Sure.
and them, because obviously I'm not going to put anybody's life at risk. It's not worth, me getting a few more likes or views or followers, obviously. So a
Right.
woman reached out to me, a mother, and she said that she, has her son in these group texts. There's a whole family in this text group, which is like the saddest part about this. They're all trying to keep this, sailor going, basically,
Right.
because
Right.
the amount of food that he is eating. I mean, so when he went to on this deployment aboard the USS Abraham Lincoln, um, he weighed 160 pounds,
Mhm.
and he's 6 foot, by the way. So 160 pounds at 6 foot, you are you're a pretty like
Already
slender
lean.
person.
You're already lean. Right. Right.
You're lean.
Wow.
You're absolutely lean. So then he's been outside like the Strait of Hormuz for however long, and now he weighs 128 pounds. So he's lost over 32 pounds and probably more so now. And he is there. These guys are working 10, 12-hour shifts sometimes. You know what I mean? And they're given
Mhm.
probably about this much food per meal, if not less. I have pretty big hands, so probably like it's probably this size or a little bit less. They are getting
Right.
a
Right.
three. They are getting 3 meals a day. That being said, he did confirm that they're getting three of those servings a day, but still, it's not enough to sustain the human body. Period, because it we consume
Right.
energy to live and breathe.
Correct. Right. Right.
And the fact that he's doing all that and there it's like this is not the first time this has been reported. I mean, I think it was the I can't remember USA Today, I think, is the one that broke it about 3.5 weeks
Mhm.
ago. And they said
Mhm.
that there were people reportedly losing 15 pounds. That was
Okay.
the height, was 15 pounds. And then we're looking 3.5 weeks later when I'm talking to this family, and I'm talking to three others now too that are basically corroborating it and giving me their own evidence. And now we're looking at people that are losing 35 to 40 pounds. So, like, people use the
Wow.
word starving way too
Real
often.
thing, real quick for our viewers. They know I work on Ukrainian POW stories where the guys come home looking like fucking skeletons. Okay. So that's to me the emotional comparative I'm already making when you say parents in signal chat or whatever, communication systems watching for their young men. This is like POW level story on some level that they shouldn't be going out on deployments and then coming back at the ratio that I'm hearing this. This is fucked.
No, at the very least, service members need to be very well fed. I mean, like I mean, I was in Iraq twice. I served in Iraq twice. And
Mhm.
on Fridays, we had steak and lobster.
Right, right.
You could be out getting shot at, come back and have steak and lobster and a Diet Coke. You know what I mean? And
Yeah.
the thing is, this entire mission, operation, whatever you want to call it, was so poorly planned that
Mhm.
I do not think anticipated the amount of bases in the Middle East to be struck. Every single one, basically. And then Spain and other European countries are now saying, we don't want you bringing your planes here. We don't want you stopping here. So,
Mhm.
I mean, what are they going to do? Have like some helo like load up crates of food and come back and forth from the Abram to land like what 150, 300 times? That's ridiculous. They can't do that. So now there's no way for them to get a resupply of food.
And I wrote an article somewhere around February where it was a German official, someone not really big, who said, "Oh, well, you can get the fuck off our bases then," and he was barking back at Trump. And so I did an assessment. I said, "Well, exactly how many bases?" And this is what I get obsessed with. I'll sit there for days going, like, I want to look at every forward operating position that we have that
Yep.
makes this happen. And I spent days doing that. That's kind of my skill set is putting that together. I said, what if they all just said, wait a minute. The Vienna Convention says, and took a lot of this experience I have to go, let's just do this theory that everyone says, get the fuck out. What happens to the superpower? The superpower basically ceases to be the superpower. It's a regional power at that point. And the arrogance of the America First stuff is part of why. But now it's actually happening. Now we're having Mideast countries going, yeah, no, sorry, not interested. Saudi Arabia flat out goes, no, sorry. Spain flat out say, no, sorry. Germany's like, yeah, get off. Oh, we'll take 5,000 troops off. This
Okay.
is so far out of what we have lived with our entire life. I'm 56. So I don't know a time in our life where that wasn't the reality I lived in. And now it is.
No, it's really crazy, and this whole America Force like First BS too is really a massive problem because first of all, there's no such thing as America First right now. Well, I do call him the president of the American people, but that only applies to the people that are netting at least $1 billion a year. Then
Right,
he's
right,
America first. Then he's America first.
right.
Otherwise, he doesn't care about you. He doesn't care about you. He said yesterday that when he's weighing these global decisions, he doesn't think about Americans and the cost that they have to incur because of, prices going up and trade being very unreasonable. Like, he doesn't care about that stuff. He doesn't think about that stuff. So, you know, I just did not expect it to stoop to a level where, our soldiers and sailors are being deprived of food. And I, of course, stuck to my journalistic integrity and ethics, and I
Yeah,
reached out to the
good.
Navy. I
Okay,
reached out to
good,
the
good.
Navy with a bunch of questions and, asked for answers to those questions, or at the very least, a comment on what I am writing about. And all they did was send me a link to a Twitter post or X post of the I think it was like this the someone in the Navy, I can't remember who it was, of the Navy, like tagging Pete Hegseth saying this is being reported that our people are starving, and all it was like capital fake news. I was like, cool, all right. So they literally forward me to that to answer all my questions, just that I was providing fake news. And I spent days, almost a week confirming all of this
Yeah,
information before I wrote about it,
right,
and I'm
right.
talking conversations that have all been recorded and everything. Like, this wasn't just somebody reached out to me and said this and I said, "Ooh, let's jump on this." Like, it took
Sure,
like
sure,
research.
sure.
And honestly, as a veteran, someone who's been in Iraq twice, I am like tore up inside over the fact that this is even a possibility, especially on a ship that's like basically a major city floating on the water, and they can't figure out how to get food
It
or
and
packages.
in your experience, and this is what's so important about having you here, that's not what we used to do
No,
before this shit. Right.
no. I mean, everything. I mean, look, the invasion of Iraq was the entire Iraq situation was just an absolute. I'm not even gonna start on that. That's another conversation. But like,
Of course, of
we
course.
should never have been there. We should never have been there.
It's the same Sun Tzu model we're warning Putin and Trump not to do. You don't fight your wars far away because now you have to use two carts, as Sun Tzu would say. The cart
Yeah,
to haul the
it's
stuff out there. And the farther you have to go, the fight your fight, the more your chances of not winning are they go up.
yeah, yeah. No, you're absolutely right. And that's the difference between World War II and every other war that's been fought and pulled away from, basically.
Mhm.
I mean, when we were fighting World War II, we were fighting with everybody. So we were basically all over Europe, which means everything we needed was right there when we needed it. You know what I mean? And now it's like, and now no one's supporting what he's doing whatsoever, and they're just kicking him off bases. They're taking away airspace, and it's like the equivalent of the elders in the family basically, taking away like privileges from a child who's not acting properly, and taking it's I don't know, but the thing is, so I first did the article. I was not going to do a video right away. I was going to do the article, which I did, and a friend of mine, our local Nazi hunter, Chris Goldsmith, amazing man.
Yeah, yeah.
I tagged
Oh, I have big
him.
respect for him, by the way. I'd love to talk to him because I'm a big fan of
Oh,
his
he'll
work,
talk to you.
and we're overlapping in that area. I'm a Nazi hunter. I'm
Oh,
gonna
okay,
ask
there
him
you go.
this.
He's an amazing person to talk to, and talk
Yeah,
with. And I'm collaborating with him on a lot of stuff right now, which is really
yep,
exciting.
yep,
So I added him on the article, and he made an amazing video talking about it. Direct people to my Substack, and I mean that has almost 100,000 views. So then I decide, my wife got on me and saying that you have to do a video too. You have to do a video too. I said, okay, I'll do a video. So I did an update video about the Navy reaching out, responding to me, and
mhm,
and I think from what I didn't check. I was told that I was over 400,000 views overnight, and then it got yanked away from me. They basically
yeah,
said that I was giving away, which, now that I think about it, I think I showed the email with the Pentagon's address on it. And they said I showed a like sensitive address. Give me a break. Anybody can Google where the Pentagon
right,
sits, just like they can
right.
Google where the White House is. I mean, give me a break. So they basically said I violated the rules or whatever, and they took it down.
I don't want to dox anyone, but Donald Trump lives at 1600.
Pennsylvania.
Right. The Naval Observatory for Vance happens to be at,
This
like that.
stuff is all public. Everybody in the world could find this with the fastest Google search. So the fact
Right.
that they took it away for that reason was just the excuse that they needed to. It really upset me because I did it as professionally as possible. I wasn't being a smart ass. I was being, I was keeping my journalistic integrity through this whole process. I mean, sometimes
Mhm.
I'll be a content creator and other times I'll put my journalist hat on when it needs to be on. You know what I
Sure.
mean?
Yeah, yeah,
And
yeah.
either way, they are putting like a muzzle on my First Amendment right as an American,
Yeah,
as somebody in America. And
right.
that really, really upset me. I'll be honest with you. I was actually quite happy with and took it as a privilege to be referred to as fake news by, Pete Hegseth. I feel like
Right,
that's an
right,
honor. That's an honor. That means I'm doing the right thing.
right.
But yeah, they took it down. It really sucks because I had collaborators on that post and they all got in trouble for it too. And they're like
Oh,
solid, good
man.
collaborators.
Absolutely.
Some can't go live for a month. One can't accept collaborations right now. I mean, it's
Right.
pretty crazy.
And one of the things I think, like I was reaching out to some of our good friends like Corey Hargrove and the others that are these military guys showing up on TikTok and Instagram. Because one of the things that bothers me so much is that when I see people serve with honor, whether they're in the military or they're in the FBI or the prosecutors, and they did the job with fidelity, then we have to
Good
stand
word.
up for those voices. And that's how I got here, is in the 2000s when Mitchell and Jessen were torturing people. I wound up reaching out to Matthew Alexander, aka Tony Camarena, that's his real name, and these people who actually did the real work. He was involved in the al-Zarqawi track down, the bomb
Oh,
makers,
wow.
and these guys who did the real work get subverted by Dick Cheney. And that's actually how I wound up here. Is I pivoted out of Pacifica Radio journalism into just that, launched Cheney Watch and Veracity Radio, and wound up interviewing like Colonel Morris Davis, Chief Justice of Guantanamo Bay, Abu Zubaydah's attorneys, and I'm trying to get to the root of, well, wait a minute. I mean, if we had guys who actually were extracting information, like my friend Ali Sifan, if we had people who were following the rule book and having success, why the fuck are we doing this other stuff? And that's actually
Money.
literally the whole that whole it's that, but also a lack of faith in our own service members. You know, the lack of faith in there, and then now, and let's just get to our modern era because I think it's just most important. Is this contempt? Like I watched the Cash Patel hearing with Chris Van Hollen yesterday. For me, it's this morning I watched it, and I was losing it. I was fucking losing it because I'm tired of watching him and Pete Hegseth and these guys get up in front of Capitol Hill and just have such contempt for us, all of us as voters.
Yeah, it's really bad. Uh this job in general, because I focus on politics mainly,
Sure.
is um it's very hard. I'll be honest. I mean, I've been
Yeah.
I've been to Iraq twice. I'm United States Marine infantryman.
Sure.
Done some hard shit in my days. Excuse my language, by the way. If you're, I don't know, people are watching too
We're on
sensitive.
Substack.
Okay, good. Um,
It's a war show.
this is a war show.
Show.
There you go. This is hard because I'm literally seeing civil rights that were put in place between 160 years ago and now, when slavery technically ended, basically being completely abolished. I'm seeing um, human rights being completely just violated. And look, when I say that I'm seeing this, I'm not just like reading this in magazines. Like, since I started doing this, I've been on the ground on day one of the federalization in DC. I was there when ATF, FBI, DHS, ICE, and people were just literally flooding the streets in DC. I was there for 5 days covering that on the ground. I've been shot at by DHS and had like flashbangs and everything thrown at me in Portland twice on two different
Right.
occasions. I've had these white Christian nationalists pull guns on me in the streets. I've been to Minneapolis, which was probably one of the most eye-opening things I've ever seen, because you never would expect to get off a plane and step foot into an occupied, like a military occupied country, and it's your own home, which I'm obviously you understand.
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
like literally, I mean,
I'm an expert in occupied territory stories here. My basically my Ukrainian mom, my real family's all gone. So I'm an American, but my Ukrainian mom was in occupation. I have a ton of friends who were both in occupation and have families divided by occupation. But when I call America, like I even did this tonight with a good friend of mine who works in journalism with me for years, and I said, "Well, I wish you well, and stay strong in occupation." And he started snickering. I said, "No, no, no. I mean, you're in occupation zone."
yeah, for
And,
sure,
and
seriously.
I mean, it's a little tongue in cheek to say, but it's also a sad reality. Unfortunately, it has to operate like that.
No, it does. And oh, hey, Brittany. Yes, I've met Jolly multiple times in DC, and we were both in Minneapolis at the same time, trying to get protesters out of jail that shouldn't have been in there. So yes, Jolly's amazing. But no, it was really interesting because there's certain neighborhoods that you couldn't get into without showing your ID to the residents. There
Right.
were people posted on highways that were taking down your license plate number and everything. Thank God, a lot of my followers are actually, the protesters in America. It's actually quite interesting
Right.
how many people like recognize me when I'm on the ground in those situations, considering my following is usually older women, which I find
Right.
fascinating. But when I'm on the ground, for some reason, people know who I am. But no, it's when I say, like, in my experience, I have traveled so much across the US this last year to really get my finger on what is happening, because everybody's normalizing this. Everybody's talking about how, oh, it's just Trump being Trump. Don't worry about it. Everything's going to be fine. That kind of thinking is literally what will destroy democracy on a plate for this administration or regime, however you want to like talk about it. And
Right.
there's people like Chris Goldsmith, the Nazi hunter. Have you seen his documentary War Game?
No, no, I need to see that.
So you should be able to look it up. It should be on. I think it's on. I was gonna rent it for $3.99. I think on Prime. But literally, he was one of the people that was tasked with literally taking like the former Secretary of Department of the former Secretary of DOD, and several other former elected officials, and literally create war games on how the country could be taken over because of what happened on January 6th.
Right.
And we were having a conversation yesterday. It was him and I and some vets talking about. I was like, I have a feeling that General Mattis, somebody out there, has an idea or a plan to like get this thing in check if it goes off the rails and goes bad. And then he told me,
Mhm.
he's like, you don't understand. I created war games for all those guys. Literally, they made a documentary out of it. None of them knew what to do. None of them have a plan on what to do. They just said democracy will basically work itself out. And that
Mm.
just pissed me off so much. Like, it's it goes back to like these higher ups, you
Yeah.
know, and that's the reason why we're having a problem on these Navy ships too. They're not thinking about the individuals that are going through all of the stuff. You know,
Hmm.
they give orders and they expect results. You know,
Yeah.
but they're supposed to also be planning for contingencies. Like, oh, what if we can't get our people food? His response was 3 weeks ago when this report came out, we have 30 days plus food for our troops on the Abraham Lincoln. They're fine. Okay, and now here we are 3.5 weeks out from that statement, and I'm still getting people saying they're starving. And again, I say starving not in the sense that people use it all the time in, you know, Western civilization, like, I'm starving, when's my
Well, yeah.
burger gonna get here? You know, like,
Yeah.
I mean, like, fucking starving.
Exactly. And the thing is also, like, I'm a big fan of Rig Madden.
Okay.
Like, my inner spirit is U.S. Army Overlord. He knows this, by the way. But I watch these guys, and I really respect that they have come forward and really spoken up. And I used to despise what I call the influencer crowd, but I don't call this particular niche of voices the influencer crowd. It's the voices we need, whether they be former military, former agencies, folks who again, back to fidelity. If they have fidelity to our ideals, the true American ideal, with all of its problems, we have to empower those voices, and more important, we have to listen to those voices. We have to learn from those experienced voices who tell us things like, man, do not go running out and being Johnny, Bravo. Today is not the day to do that. You have to work together, or join us at these events, and you see that people are looking to them for not just guidance, but like a strong sense of that this is savable. This is something we can do, and this is something we can save.
Yeah, and the problem also is the GOP, the MAGAs, whatever you wanna call them, they have been positioning themselves for over 10 years,
Mhm.
basically being the influencers to push what they want for policies in the future on every single social platform, where the, you know, Democrats, you know, progressives, whatever you want to call them, have not done, and they're starting to do it, but not in a way like there's people I met in Portland. I'm actually writing a huge article right now where I'm going to be exposing these white Christian nationalist chuds that are going around the country and doing these
Mhm.
horrendous things to people. If I could show you the videos, I mean, I have videos of a guy in a wife beater holding a Bible over his head, wearing camo pants, and like stomping on someone's face in Jesus' name. These are the violent
Mhm.
things that I'm seeing. They're wearing crosses, and they are literally attacking like small females with flagpoles. Like I have all, and the funny thing is, I first started giving this stuff to the police, and then before I realized, the police didn't give a shit. They were literally
Yeah.
like, "Oh, this is not good enough." I'm like, "Why? That's his face. That's people are saying his name. That is a
Right.
flag in his hand. That is a flag
Right.
in that woman's stomach. Are you
Yeah.
kidding me?" Like no, like the cops just don't care. They're it's the we the people.
Some of them are complicit. Some of them are members of Oath Keepers. Some of them are 90 are
Oh no, but here's the
apologists.
thing, my
You
friend.
know.
That first time in Portland when I was just there when all this was going down,
Right.
I'm gonna tell you a story.
Go
So
for it.
when I was in Portland the first time, Trump was trying to get the Oregon State National Guard to deploy to Portland because he was saying that there was an insurrection happening with the protesters outside the ICE facility. Now,
Mhm.
I was somehow just by God's like plan there when this all started happening. I was so lucky I was there when this was happening. So a Trump appointed judge from his last you know, time as being president said no, there's no insurrection. He's like, no, there's a like 4 city block wide like, you know, war going on outside of Portland. I just got a coffee down the street from the place with some nice old people in there, really beautiful. There's no
Mhm.
fucking war going on. And so what happens is 4 hours later, I see 2 DJI drones fly over the walls of DHS. And then I see a Black Hawk, DHS Black Hawk circling above. And I'm just like, that's weird. And then 100 probably more, geared up
Wow.
fully, gas mask, combat gear, agents come flooding out with people with massive Ronin gimbals and like 4K cameras, and they shot probably 500-600 like pepper ball rounds, beanbag rounds. They threw buckets worth of flashbangs, smoke grenades, everything. They pushed everybody 4 blocks back and filmed the whole thing, put it on their Twitter 2 hours later as proof there's a war going on, called in the California National Guard because he had them federalized already,
Right.
and had to get told no again. It was like, so basically, I'm seeing this shit happen in front of my eyes, and I'm just like, wow, this is like the stuff you see in movies or you hear about that could possibly happen in another country, but not here.
This is the fictional Amazon movie we never thought we would take serious.
Seriously. And then all the guys that were on the ground inciting this stuff, that were dragging women on the ground with their hair, that were assaulting women. The day I got off the plane back in Southern California, they were in the fucking White House. They were in the Oval Office with Trump, every single one of them. Because they're being paid. And I'm not saying, oh,
That's
it's like
right.
dark money. Like, it was like, oh yeah, you're getting paid by like George Soros. Like, no, these guys are being paid to go and do this stuff. And I was
Right.
floored.
Well, one of the things that Chris and I probably have more in common is that I try to remind people I'm in their comms. I mean, I'm in all these telegrams for years of Oath Keepers, Proud Boys. I have the entire Epic server sitting here on my on a hard drive on my desk of the Oath Keepers. I'm a bad motherfucker when it comes to the digital side. So no one can fool me on that because back in I'll take it back to 2017 for a moment for our viewers. I was neck down in the data of ISIS and that type of stuff. When someone said, "Were you ready for Charlottesville?" I said, "What Charlottesville is?" I
Charlottesville.
mean, I'd heard of it, but I wasn't ready for it because I didn't know what was coming because I was really down in the ISIS stuff. But from that day on, it was a big deal. And I moved after Harvey. I moved to Fort Lauderdale, and I remember years ago when we went to Waco before it kind of went up, when it was kind of a bit of an Oogle fest. It was on public access, and so we all showed down there. And we thought Texas is weird. We got like strychnine drinking pastors who played with rattlesnakes in Waco, and Florida's like, hold my pina colada, bitch, because it's fucking weird. And then after the midterms, November 2018, I'm standing there next to Proud Boys. And at the Broward County Election Center, I had Laura Loomer, Ali Alexander,
Oi.
Michael Simonetti, aka Michael the Black Man. I had Andrew, whatever his name is, that was the MAGA Parkland dad. I had Bikers for Trump there. I had QAnon for the first time T-shirts out in front of me, and a whole range of just loons, right?
Yeah, man.
Which is when you pivot in. And I photographed a lot of them at that event. And I have a little batch of volunteer teams over the years. So we would basically create a master database of everybody. And I even had a Proud Boy get in my face the following Monday when Ari Melber was doing a live stream for or a live broadcast. And there's a video of me. You can see me pass behind the set to help tackle a guy who was trying to ambush the set. Proud Boy gets up in my face and says, you Antifa? I kind of looked at him and said, first off, back the fuck up. What's your question? Am I Antifa? Now, have you seen those guys? I haven't seen them. They weren't here Saturday. They're here today. Oh, no, I didn't see them either. I said, yeah, okay. Are you worried about them? And I like to fight. I have a bad habit. So I'm baiting. I'm like, are you afraid of them? And if you know anything about Proud Boys, the last thing you want to ask a Proud Boy is if he's afraid of Antifa, the Latte Boys, right? Well, we're Proud Boys. I said, I know you're Keith Burwell, that's Jonathan Pearson. And I named all 7 guys, and like a dog with a frequency, he's like, what was that? But that's really what I did. That was my job, essentially, was to recon, grab, and get those names down. And I had photographed approximately maybe 800 photos on that particular Saturday.
Wow.
Everyone's face goes in the database. Everyone in the team starts picking them apart. We all are in the comms, and we start building these networks. This is what's on my hard drives: is all the networks for every Proud Boy unit
Oh, you need to
across
talk
the
to Chris.
country. Yeah. And so later, as this all keeps developing, once we get to June 2020, a person calls me up and says, You were talking about this Boogaloo Boys guys meeting Mike Dunn and those guys meeting the Black Lives Matters guys in Minneapolis, and that set your alarm off. Yeah, can you write that up? Sure. And I wrote it like a 15-page report called the Boog Threat, and it basically is the insurrection report that winds up being Jan 6 because every one of those groups converges at Jan 6.
And
You
what
know.
flag would you what flag would you put that those groups under? I was because I'm like I'm deep into the white Christian nationalism. Like
Hmm.
I'm
Hmm.
just doing a lot of research on it, and I'm finding that most white hate groups, including the KKK from back
Yeah.
in the day,
Right.
um, in my opinion, fall under that Christian nationalism, that white Christian nationalism umbrella,
Hmm.
basically stating that because we conquered, you know, uh, this country, we have a
Right.
say of
Right.
who's allowed to be here.
Even though I'm from the same Europeans that came here, and we don't agree with that.
Yeah, right.
I'm a
It's
Bohemian,
crazy.
Scottish, English, Irish offspring. But those groups, also the fact that they're trying to bullshit their way out of this, we're not going to let them do that. I bring on like I had Daniel Hodges on, the police officer, and I'm friends with Sergeant Gunnell. One of the last people I saw before I left the United States in December 2021. I'm on the Oath Keepers Hulu special, and I ran into Harry Dunn at the Capitol. He was actually just on duty. I walked right up to us like, I respect you so much, and I gave him a hug, took a selfie, and got on a plane to Ukraine, and I never looked back. But all these guys now, we need them to be able to be heard. We need to really remind every one of these Proud Boy types and the Michael Flynn's out there. We have the data of what you did. We're not letting go of it. We're not
I
going to
don't think they
forget it.
realize that they're going to be held accountable. There's no way that
Yeah.
they're not. I mean, I literally have had I've had hard drives. There's third party people that have my hard drives
Hmm.
because my
Hmm.
face and name is everywhere. That
Yeah.
if anything was to happen to me, or if I'm somehow silenced, I don't know how that would happen. There's
Yeah.
people that have everything that I experienced in
Yeah.
DC, Portland, and Minneapolis.
Right.
It's going to happen. They will be held accountable 100%.
Data redundancy is the gift. Absolutely. I want to think we have a lot of viewers in here. I want to ask them if they have some comments about this. We're watching. I have them on the side screen here so I can see their commentary. Please let us know. What are some of the other things that you're seeing in the news? Because you actually cover a pretty good range of topics. You're not just a kind of a one trick pony on some things. What are some things that are setting off your alarms besides
Well, I
everything? By the way,
mean,
it's kind of an open.
yeah, that's wow.
It's a big DDoS attack, or as I call it, cognitive warfare.
Yeah, no kidding. Yeah, there's a lot going on in my head now after that question. So I mean, look, the judicial side of things is probably really setting off the most alarms, seeing
Mhm.
all this redistricting that's happening. The people's I mean, what was it in Alabama? I think that every single Democratic committee member was removed from every committee. And
Mhm.
now it's just going to be controlled basically by the GOP. So seeing, seeing actual people's lives actually being affected, not reading about it, but you're seeing
Right,
it, you're
right.
talking to them about it. And then honestly, seeing how this administration is literally manipulating
Hmm.
cities, states, genders. I mean, uh, religions. I mean, it's absolutely crazy. I mean, the fact that somebody was on that, God, who was that individual's name that was on the floor in Congress the other day? It's like a former KKK member or something. Basically, is saying that we really need to get rid of all of these Muslims because they are going to kill us all. And I like really try to think back. I like in my video I did, which was more of a content creation video, I was like, can you guys think back to how many times, first of all, a Muslim friend or acquaintance that you've had has tried to convert you to Islam? because I can't think of a
Never.
single time. I can't think of a
Never.
single time. Only people I can ever think about like converting me is Christians. That's it.
Right.
And how many have tried to kill you or hurt you?
Right.
I can't think of a single one, and I've known several, and they're some of the
Mhm.
nicest people in the world because if you actually read the Quran, if you actually like the thing is these people that like claim they're fighting behind the Bible have never even read the Bible. And if they have, they have read some BS version where, it's it's the same thing. It's the same thing with extremists, is like Islamic extremists. It's a very small population of people.
In fact, they're stuck. The phrase I've always used is "stuck at the hip on stupid." Um, and the Benghazi attack was that because to me, having Terry Jones, the Quran burning pastor, on one side, with the chuckle fucks on the other side, going, "Look, they hate us," and basically they're stuck on stupid on the internet side, right? And then Chris Stevens and those guys get killed in between those worlds. And so I wrote an article back at the beginning of the year, I don't know, February somewhere, where I said, "Are you working for the Islamic State? Are you sure?" Because I got tired of online waking up every day bashing Muslims. And I said, if you don't understand the rhetorical circle that you're participating in, you're not doing anything about Islam itself. Normative Islam or the Ummah is not into that. But ISIS uses that rhetoric, much like neo-Nazis use those rhetoric lines, to recruit. And every time you go bash a Muslim, you're doing the job of ISIS because Muslims will typically be able to say, "What do you mean I should join ISIS? Because my neighbors hate me." No, my neighbors help me fix my fence. My
Exactly.
neighbors help me. So when you treat people with respect, those anchors do not work. And that circle, I try to talk to right wingers all the time with this, and I use an example that happened here. There's a Mormon. I'll try not to drop his name, but there's a Mormon who last year really, really pissed me off, put me in the red zone. He wanted to get a press badge for me. He wanted to have me give him some ability of my brand here in Ukraine to help him do something. And I was like, sure, no problem. I'd be glad to. And then out of fucking nowhere, he goes, "What do you think of Muslims?" I'm sorry, what? What do you think of Muslims? I said, I don't understand your
Like their
question.
culture, their food. Like, what do you mean?
Yeah, like, yeah, I didn't understand this because he doesn't understand I'm a Silk Road expert. So I like, how wide do you want to go? I'm pretty facile with this topic, but I didn't know why he brought it up. So he says, "Well, you can't trust them." And I said, hold on, like with my friends." And he goes, you can't really have Muslim friends." Excuse me? Now we're fighting. Now we're fighting. I'm sorry, what? Um, and he was, first off, he was a true believer in what he was saying. So he goes, even their holy book says that. I said, no, it actually doesn't.
I was gonna say,
Oh,
have
no,
you
no,
read it?
and he says you can't. He says what do you say? He says you can't be allies with someone because they're not a believer. I go, that is actually not what it says. Yes, I said no, it actually doesn't. And please, literally, this is with my job for many years. Well, I was in the military. Oh shit, here we go.
Okay.
This is
So
why I was in the red zone. It's like, okay, I don't know if you know me, dude, and I'm not gonna say his name, but like literally, this was my job, bro. Like literally, I'm an author on one book on propaganda on ISIS, and I am the lead researcher on a fucking encyclopedia on this shit. So please stop before you go. And it was being cool. Actually, my voice never really went up. But I said, actually, what the Quran actually says is, do not make an alliance with those who declare war upon you for your religion.
that makes
And
sense to
he's
me.
like, "Oh, I don't know that." And I said, "And why do we know that that's what it says? Because in Hadith, I mean, in other words, there's what the Quran says. Here's Hadith is what, and Surah what these two things are seen together. What did Muhammad do? One of Muhammad's disciples comes up and says, "Hey, my mom is still a polytheist. Should I disown her? Why did she not feed you?" And that's your fucking answer right there. Is it's not about that you're a different religion. It's like, did you declare war upon us? So how do we know this is still true in the modern era? Because Saudi Arabia, Qatar, all these Arab countries, Muslim countries do not say, I can't be your ally
Nope.
because until we declare religion war upon you for your religion, which we basically, even with Guad, we did not do. Therefore, alliances are still there. And this guy did not want to hear it because he's got this thing. Now, here's why that article mattered. That are you working for ISIS? I had to go after the Mormons, and if you're a Mormon, not you, but the viewers, suck it up because this is not going to be fun. It's this proctology a moment. Um, So I did a distillation, and this is one of the ways I do as an analyst is say, okay, how many Muslims do we have? We're going to say basically 1.6 to 2 billion people. All right. So I like to bring it down a little bit just to give a little benefit of the doubt for our adversaries in this argument. Okay, how many people are in these groups? And when I do the pie chart, it's a line. It's not even a pie slice, it's a line. But do the same numbers for the total amount of Mormons in America. And I'm not going to use world Mormonism because it's really an American phenomenon problem. And then go into the Bundys and the numbers of extremists. And actually, the numbers are significant. And it's not to say Mormons are automatically extremists, but the extremism in a Mormon world is higher, and that's who's talking to me is a Mormon. And I said, but the extremism in your realm is actually percentage-wise significantly higher by like saying 1% versus 15% if you were to do the balance between the two. And I just had to basically stop the communications with the guy because it was a hard stop. I'm like, man, you're intellectually brain fucking yourself, not me.
Well, one of your
Um,
followers just said
yeah,
something that makes sense. I mean, like,
yeah, but Islam
Laura,
Umarov, yeah, or Crimean Tatar Muslim.
she said religion is dangerous since people are no longer critical thinkers, and I think that is
Uh,
literally that is hitting the nail right there. I mean, look,
no,
critical thinking is not necessarily taught anymore because then you can't
no,
be controlled. I mean, I don't know. I think some of the biggest issues that I've noticed in the field is the fact
mhm,
that people can't think for themselves. They can't reason. They can't take A and Z and
mhm,
find any type of commonality or reasoning why both have good and probably both have bad. It's just no, 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 no. I'm right. This is wrong.
mhm,
You cannot change my mind, and that is like one of the scarier things I think I've seen. And
right,
it's getting worse. I mean, people are forgetting. It's not that you're not even being taught how to critically think anymore. People are just forgetting how to critically think.
right,
People are not reading. Like my uncle, for God's sakes, somehow is this massive MAGA individual still. And it's
mhm,
just like, and he'll like read my stuff and watch my stuff and call me an idiot. And I'm just like, bro, like, how many books have you read in the last year? Like, how, like, if I
mhm,
told you I read like 75, would that change your perception? But no, because it is you're wrong and I'm right. And that's just the way that it's always going to be.
right. I actually am a little blessed on the other side of that is that I could usually speak on my topics and my family members don't fight back with me on those particular topics. They'll stay loyal to the rest of their MAGA world, but if I say something about Ukraine or if I had set one of my uncles straight about Benghazi because he watched Fox News all the time. And because I grew up with integrity with my family, they know, well, Chris is basically probably the only one who actually reads. No offense to my family. My family's from Oklahoma and Arkansas, so it's MAGA land, and
Yeah,
especially Oklahoma. And basically my word is golden in the family because I've always been that way. But the rest of what happens in the family's orbit around the news consumption stays true of the rest of the world about that. And one of the things I like to do with our viewers, and I definitely want you to come on often so we can do this, is I
sure.
would basically work on news and information epistemology so that when we were on just Twitter Spaces, I would say, okay, so you read what article? Yeah. And what was it that you read? Yeah. And what were the sources in that article? And where does it derive its knowledge? And what is the conclusion? And how much of what that person wrote is actually the author's work or just rehashing something read from somewhere else? Or
Well, Chris,
do you
I
ever
just
learn
read the
to read
headline.
backwards? Exactly. And I tell them, do the what my first journalist teacher in high school, when I didn't intend to even know how to do that stuff, I was not interested in the topic. It was just an elective. She says, always read from the last paragraph up and then reread it. And that is one of the best things I've ever learned was to start from the what seems to be useless at the bottom and walk backward to the lead and see if the article completes itself. And if not, then you have work to do. And that's one of the ways I do my work is, try to think, what do I want our viewers to walk away with? And I really have to think about, did I make the case or did I just repeat pablum from what the New York Times and CNN said, and we all come to some silly, stupid agreement? Because that's what I see in the print
No, a
world.
lot
And
of
then
people
now
do
let's go
that.
to, yeah. Now let's get to the cable world, which is even worse, is we had stenographers like Major Garrett. I was on, you heard me when you were signing in about this. Major Garrett does 60 Minutes with Netanyahu, doesn't push back on any of the claims from Netanyahu, not one. I was losing it. An hour, it was an
Nah, it
extended
was
version too,
literally
an
just the
hour and a
easiest thing
half, and
ever.
didn't do it.
Yeah. Look, I won't even report on something unless I have three credible first of all, the news moves so fast right now in America that I can't spend an hour or two looking into every single story. But what I can do is I
Yeah,
can make sure that reputable, and I'm sorry, I don't consider CNN or
yeah, right,
those places
right,
reputable. Like I rely on certain journalists within certain Reuters, I mean AP,
correct, correct, correct.
very few in the Washington Post now. You
Especially
know,
now, right,
especially now, like there are certain places and people that I can put like a 99% stamp trust on because I know that they go through their sources. They're not just having a conversation in a bar and then writing a freaking
right.
paper on it. But when it comes down to real reporting, like what I consider that last article I did and what I'm doing right now, I mean, my goal is to make everything a fifth grade level. When
Hmm.
I started this
Yeah,
journey,
agreed.
Yeah, when I started this journey a year ago, it started at a seventh grade level. And it's not to say that my readers, my viewers can't articulate what I'm talking about.
Right,
I'm
right,
just trying to make it easier for them to do so that way there's less questions. I don't
right,
want to have somebody watch my video and then go down a rabbit hole for an hour. I mean, unless it's an
right,
important topic that they need to get more context on, there's only so much I can tell you in a minute and 30 seconds.
right.
You know what I mean? But
Yeah.
I feel like this news cycle that we're in here in America is nothing but doom and gloom. It's terrible constantly, and it's not because and I'm not trying to make I'm I I'm not trying to fearmonger. I'm not trying to
Right.
just be this depressive. "Oh, half of America can't read past the sixth grade level." I know that's why I do the fifth grade now. Uh, you have some very I like Brittany. Um,
I
you have
love
some
our viewers here.
you have some great
I'm so
viewers.
addicted to these people here. They're great.
No, they're great. I love this. And Laura as well. I think newspapers were written on a fourth grade level. There you go. So, like, keeping things as easy as possible for people because education is going down and down and down. And again, I'm not saying that to say that readers in America can't understand what you're writing.
Hmm.
But I feel like you just really have to make it as easy as possible. Because if you look at what the alt right is doing here in
Hmm.
America, they're making things very easy. They're only saying a few words and they're saying it a
Right,
lot. They're saying
right.
fraud. They're saying immigrants. They're saying,
Hmm.
danger. They're saying all these things, but they're such simple words that you can have this emotional connection to that they're able
Right,
to
right.
sway people in changing their opinions on matters. So I'm just
Well,
trying to
let's use an example that's really important this last week with Virginia's redistricting fight. Someone, I wish I could say who it was. One of our mutual influencer guys we watch that's military guy says, "Did you see what they did? They basically overturned it. But
about
why?"
CHF,
Talk about no, it could have been him because he's great.
the American
No,
Sniper. Yeah,
yeah, yeah. Corey's great. We're gonna have him on. He's actually scheduled to come with us at some point. But no, what they were talking about, I forget who it was saying. Like, do you notice that they don't hesitate to be ruthless to destroy democracy, and yet, what has been the reaction to the Virginia Supreme Court overturning the will of the fucking people?
will the people
Okay, the
will
ruthlessness of the Republicans, they will march down there the fucking moment something passes against them and enforce and unconditionally attack it nonstop. And the Democrats like, oh, well, maybe on Saturday we'll have a discussion and, hopefully, and what did Spanberger do? Well, maybe. And this kind of hope, like you said at the beginning, this hope it all work out. And our adversaries, unfortunately, are not operating like that. They are literally at
no.
every level getting into every part of the system to try to corrupt it, and we're asking for handshakes on the way out.
No, it's horrible. Look, at the end of the day, I see democracy surviving. I do not see the Democratic Party surviving. I do not see the DNC surviving. I'm going to put that out there right now. I honestly
Yeah.
just do not see that happening. First of all, they are not willing to do what it takes.
Mhm, mhm,
Period.
mhm,
Period. They are not willing to do what it takes. Okay,
mhm,
and they're too scared of pissing people off.
mhm.
So I see democracy surviving this administration, these MAGA lunatics. I just do not see certain aspects of parties. I mean, look, in my opinion, the GOP is completely destroyed. Okay,
Right.
they're
Forever.
back to pre-GOP standards, which was when they were the Democratic Party, before Lincoln came in and created the Republican Party, which a lot of people don't know, to basically become the anti-slavery party. We're like things are like it's so insane.
Right.
So we have two parties that are really being destroyed, and we're going to have to figure out a way to basically come up with a new party system within our democracy. And I don't know how that's going to play out. But
Well, I use a different example, or another path, and tell me what you think of this. And our viewers, again, thank you for our wonderful people who are here. I see some people who are in here. These folks. One of the things I love about our supporters and our friends here is that they are eager to stay on top of what the information is that will save not just this republic, but basically the geopolitical order we've
I
all
agree,
moved into the
100%.
21st century, and we can't do without, which is why my next statement is about them. If you're looking for the anti-Trump, we're screwed. You're the anti-Trump people, but that's really what power of the people is what it's all about. We the people. And I'm in Ukraine where Yanukovych 14 years ago was thrown the fuck out. And I ask Ukrainians this all the time. I said, "Real quick question. У мене питання про це історія. And I can speak enough Ukrainian, I can get by with this. Who was the anti-Yanukovych in Euromaidan?" And they're like, they don't relate to the question because there wasn't one. Over 107 people were killed, and the more that they stayed every day, not in a couple weeks, we'll meet again. No, it was every day. That the more they didn't give up, the more he hit hard. The more he hit hard, the more people showed up. The more people showed up, the more he hit hard. Until finally, in February 2014, he killed over 107 people in Kyiv alone, and he had to get on he had to get out of Dodge, or as one person said, he did not get on a plane. It was a fucking helicopter.
Yeah.
That's we have a little argument today. No, 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 it was a helicopter. Okay, you win. But there was no anti-Yanukovych hero figure. They were all waiting to make it good, or using a different non-hero figure, like, will Rachel Maddow tonight report that everything's better? Um, if we act like children like this, we get what we don't create. Maybe that's a better way to say it. And
Yeah.
we need to create that reality by saying, "Oh, well, we're the answer." Again, we the people.
No, it's we the people all day, every day. That's why I refuse to get this tattoo removed, even though Hegseth
Yeah,
has it. A bunch of white Christian nationalists have it. They clearly don't understand what it means, which is why I refuse to get rid of it. And you're absolutely right. Look, the administration and anybody that tells you differently is lying is absolutely afraid of the
mhm.
people. Okay,
Amen.
they are
That's the weapon.
terrified,
In fact, that's the
terrified.
weapon they use. Is they're not afraid of Trump. They're afraid of the people that he fed that red meat to. That's who they're afraid of.
No, no, absolutely. And they're also afraid of all of us who are using our voices. I mean, look, if 3%, even in today's population, if 3% of people decided to quit going to work and show up to the state capitol peacefully, by
Hmm.
the way, I want to like really put that out there. And I mean, absolutely peacefully. Okay.
Hmm.
Were to go show up at the capitol with signs
Yeah.
for,
Hmm.
I don't know, let's take a guess here. Let's just say 2.5 weeks, 3 weeks, and not give up
Right.
and more show and more show. I
Right.
am telling you right now, things would be completely different. In fact, based
Yeah.
off of history and yes, I mean, we talk about three percenters when it came to, the revolution. Yeah, we're talking violence. But if we look at, the civil rights movement, if we look at the other movements that have taken place, you have a far better chance of making a positive change for your country, for for a race, for an ideology, even if you are peaceful, but in large numbers for a sustained period of time. Like you said, oh, yeah, I'll see you in 3 weeks.
Right.
So we're going to give them a vacation of just letting them do what the hell they're going to want to do. And then we're going to come out here and just inconvenience them for like 4 hours. No,
Right.
the only way this is going to change is when people put their phones away or bring them and with
Mhm.
a, like a satellite charge, like a solar charger or whatever, and don't fucking leave. Bring tents.
Right.
Do not leave. If they were to stand, if Americans, and I
Plan
am not
shifts.
saying this to incite any violence or anything. I'm going to put that out there right now.
Right.
I'm not trying to instruct anybody to do anything. If Americans decided to show up in such mass numbers and literally surround the White House peacefully, peacefully, people, peacefully, and refuse to leave, things will change. If people, I mean, people are putting too much reliance on elected officials on the Hill, which are useless right now. They're doing what they can do, but they don't have the power to do anything. If
Right.
the if that other tier of government doesn't respect it,
Hmm.
and the administrative arm doesn't give a they don't. It's not gonna. You know what I mean? Like it means
Yeah.
nothing.
Yeah. And I'll use an example here because we have a story playing out. It's actually my article tonight. This isn't Ukraine scandal; it's Ukraine success. Um, it's or progress, I should say. Sorry. It's about the arresting and charging of Zelensky's basically right hand man, Andrei Yermak. And one, this is about journalism for a moment, is that groupthink went, oh, it's terrible. It means that Ukraine hasn't made. No, it's literally progress. Don't tell me from America, and especially America right now, with the felon rapist in the White House, surrounded by criminals. Anything about Ukraine, please. I'm not in the mood. Um, but a year ago in July, the two organizations that were created in 2014 to deal with corruption, NABU and ASAPU, NABU and SAPU, um, Zelensky's orbit tried to put some restraints on those organizations, and the people hit the street for 7 days, and they reversed that. Within 7 days, all of that was turned back around on paper, at least, and which was important. And the night that news broke, the first night of the protest, I was in the southern part of the country, and I was surrounded by 12, 13 Ukrainian journalists. I was the only non-Ukrainian in the room, although I'm now called Ukrainian by Ukrainians. And I kind of looked at him and I said, "Can I say something?" And I said, "Sure, yeah. I think it's gonna be okay, and here's why. I learned faith in you guys, that the people themselves are the ones that they really want to listen to, and they were really stressed, so they weren't really hearing me at first. And then 3 hours later, before we left the bar, Zelensky had announced, "Well, tomorrow we're gonna have a meeting. Sorry, everybody. We're gonna have a meeting tomorrow. We're gonna figure out what it is." So in other words, maybe there was a legit concern that caused that action, giving some benefit of the doubt at the administration level. Maybe they saw something that made them feel like there's something negative going on, and instead of handling it the right way, they handled it the wrong way. But
Yeah.
they had to reassure the people, "Well, we're gonna do the right thing." And I texted, some friends in America who were really concerned with what was happening and seeing. I said, let me tell you what you're not going to see tomorrow. And this was against the backdrop of America because Trump was already in cracking down in America. I said, you're not going to see a crackdown on anyone tomorrow. At the president's office, you're going to see people are going to come out. They're going to be there until this is fixed. And you will not see anything like you saw in 2013 into 2014 under Yanukovych with the Berkut and the Tituchny cracking people in the head with batons and the shit we see in basically third world countries, what we saw here in 2014, what we see in America with Minneapolis, because that was what was coming at that particular time. And someone said, "How do you know?" I said, "Because they know what would happen with the people. The people will overthrow them like they did with Yanukovych. They know don't fuck with the people. They've already learned." And then I was right. It turned out exactly as I said. And now the guy that was of a concern is at least been charged. Again, I don't know anything about his innocence or guilt. I'm not into that part of it. I'll let it play out. But the fact that it actually happens is progress, number one, and faith in the people, number two. And now what I want Ukrainians to do is internalize that faith because I've seen it as an outside witness. Go, no, I have a lot of faith in you guys because I've seen what you do, and you're doing it under pressure of war, no less. And so on the International Transparency Corruption Index, Ukraine is going up. in dealing with Ukraine with corruption, and it's been a 25 years upward trend, except during Yanukovych is the only time it went down. And America's going down,
Mm.
and so is Hungary, and so is Slovakia, and these other countries to where? To this country called Russia at the bottom. And essentially, it's a race to the bottom for corruption on one side and a climb up, and a difficult, painful climb up for good people in this country. And I want Americans to internalize that because it's the fact that the people were not going to one, they don't have an anti someone that they're hopefully father figure will save us. Hopefully, anti-negative person, as I
No one's
say,
coming to save you.
no one's coming to save you. That's exactly what the Ukrainians told the Georgians 2 years ago, over 2 years ago, when the protests broke out in Georgia. Why do you think someone's coming to save you? No one came to save
No
us.
one's coming to save you.
Gotta do it
No one's
yourself.
coming to save you. No one's coming to save
Well,
us.
that's right. Gotta do it yourself.
And
Well,
this is
brother,
not
I
even
mean,
just a problem here. I mean,
yeah.
Greta Thunberg literally came on um social media the other day and started talking about how everything that's happening with ICE here is happening in very large numbers there too. So like this
Mhm.
immigration problem is not just America, London, or I should say the UK. This is
Yeah.
happening all over the place. I mean, I think the only place I've been to, which I wish, oh my God, tried to get a visa to move there because I can do my work from there. I wish was
Yeah.
Spain.
Right. Ah, yeah, yeah.
Like Spain was just so, I mean, yeah, they have their issues too with tourists.
Right,
But I've
right.
never met a more welcoming community in my life. Like, well, that's actually not true. I think the Iraqi civilians in Iraq were probably some of the nicest people I've ever met.
Yeah.
But this alt-right immigration problem is happening everywhere. And it's
Mhm.
really kind of scary. Then we have this Ukraine situation, which just is like I'm I every time I watch something about Ukraine on the news, I'm like, what the fuck, France? What the fuck, Germany? What the fuck, UK?
Right.
What the fuck,
Right.
America? Grab like 2 or 3,000 men that are very capable. Just fucking send them over there. Not that you guys
Right.
can't handle it. What I mean is just why are we allowing this to happen? And is it because he said that we would be attacked like we've never been attacked before? It's the same guy that talks about how they're a superpower, but they can't yet manage to take over a neighbor. Like
Right.
it's like it, I don't know. I
Yeah.
feel like no one's ever going to come to save anybody. We are, and you know what? Honestly, there's nobody that would be even as powerful as we as a community would be anyway. I mean, let's be real.
Yeah.
I mean, at the end of the day,
Absolutely.
hundreds of thousands, millions of us are more powerful than any fucking person you can put in front of a camera.
Well, this is why you said this at the beginning that Putin fucked up by the launching the actual invasion. He was doing really well with hybrid warfare and information warfare. That's where they were succeeding. They were drawing Europe apart. Orban was doing fine. Marine Le Pen could suddenly surge. Nigel Farage and the guys. Like, I have a pretty good encyclopedic mind of the Eurosceptic crowds. I know them really well. Been monitoring them for a decade now. And the way they lose is, when we assert the information we're asserting here, which is that, one, freedom is a commodity for the billionaires, right? But it's something that you'll know it when you're fighting for it. You'll know it when it's being taken from you. It's
Hmm.
no longer a glittering generality when it's gone. Ask guys in captivity. Ask people in occupation.
Yeah, there you go.
What it's like. And the voice, or I call it the voice of the unbombed, doesn't matter to me because I live in the world of the bomb. And we have people who need to essentially wake up at the benefits of not having that flying over their house. I mean, I'm from Texas, so the power grid goes down because Greg Abbott is corrupt.
Yeah,
Ours goes down because a drone took it out. Actually, it takes about
exactly.
three Kinjals, two Iskanders, and a bunch of drones to take out our power facility. And even then, there's a Ukrainian down there go, no, no, hold, bless, hit me the cable. Yeah, power's back on. Grandma, yeah, please stay warm. And they do it in frozen fucking temperatures out here fighting during the winter to keep those power facilities going. No matter how many times the missiles are coming in for double taps, they're still out there doing it. And when I see that kind of human determination, and then I turn on America, and I go, oh my God. And I've had to learn how to regulate my temperature down a little bit because I
Oh
sound
man.
like Negan. I'm the guy with the baseball bat going, I'm sorry, what? Um, and I told people that Sheriff Rick is the idyllic side of the Democratic Party, and Negan is the reality check. And it's that's something I want people to really check, that when the apocalyptic world is upon us, it's a certain type of mentality of ruthlessness. And I don't mean by sacrificing your soul and your value system, but to understand ruthlessness. Um, and that, when the real fight kicks in, are you like you said, are you asking for someone to come save you? Are you asking for permission to live your own life? And for our viewers, I'll quote my friend Volodymyr Zemshukov, otherwise known as Luhansk partisan. He was a businessman, ethnic Russian, by the way, even though he's from Donetsk. He's from Luhansk, but he had been living in Georgia when 2014 happened. He's not a military guy. Comes in and he settles back in Luhansk, and the Russians had control, and he becomes a partisan warfare guy. He's learning from Chechen videos how to make munitions. And when asked why, he goes, "They're raping my neighbor. They're killing my other neighbor. Am I doing nothing?" You know? And when he puts that hard reality in front of you to say, "Are you just going to stay in your house while they destroy you, the people around you?" And he's really great with putting like severe reality in front of you to talk about what you're really going to be like if you're actually in captivity, in occupation. And that's true. Like I study the modern partisan warfare stories right now, and that's the reality they live in. Is if they don't do something, that Russian soldier's going to rape their neighbor, they're going to kill your mom, and they're the ruthless ones. So you have to understand a new value system to confront them. But more importantly, as I've learned with the Ukrainians, is that they don't reduce their humanity. I've seen guys who in the trenches say, "Man, yes, of course I want to backslap him." I mean, but it's so much more powerful with that Russian guy we just captured when I don't hit him. And this week there was a video that came out where they fed them McDonald's, which brings us back to the beginning of the story, which is fuck, our own soldiers don't get McDonald's on the fucking USS Abraham Lincoln.
Jesus, that's funny because that's literally what he said he's dreaming about. That
Yeah, I
sailor
know. I saw
literally
that.
that yeah, that's what he's dreaming about, just having like a McDonald's burger. And again, I mean, look, when I was in Iraq, I dreamt of In-N-Out. Like a nice, In-N-Out burger with some like animal style fries. I mean, everybody dreamed about a steak or something like that. But it's
Right,
but it's because we're eating out of bags, we're eating MREs and stuff like that. This is because they're literally starving. Like,
right,
which by the way is not something that you sign up for at all.
right,
You don't sign up
right,
for that. You sign up knowing that you could die. You would never in your life think it was because you are being starved to death. I mean, unless we're going back to like the Frozen Chosen, or even in World War II where you're surrounded in the battlefield and maybe you're going a week
right,
without food. You were put
right,
into a really shitty situation that you have to fight your way out of. That's a little bit different. They're stuck on a ship that they are in charge of continuously keeping like it operating, and they can't keep them
right.
fed. I don't know.
The screenshot that you had that broke my heart is I want to go home.
Oh my god, I want to go home.
The
Which again is
premise.
another thing that everybody in combat, in my opinion, every single person in combat at one point or another will have that thought, or will say that under their breath,
Sure,
or
of
even
course,
out
of
loud.
course. Yeah,
But
but
saying
not
it
because
because you're being
the
starved
system
by your
makes
own
it.
government.
Right. Well, brother, man, let's do this a lot. Let's have you on here, and I want all of our viewers who aren't already following your account, and even further, because I don't mind being the digital pimp. Do a paid subscription. Make sure we're supporting this man so that we have the expertise that we have, and also much like all of you viewers have some task you're doing, and that's the task that your life is, maybe it's your vocation, is our brother here has taken the time to decide this is the task he wants. I understand that because I'm a journalist. And making sure he doesn't have to be thinking about whether the bills are paid or whether the sustenance to do it is there. I already read one thing about you. So long as those things are met, you're going to do like I do, just wake up and
That's
obsessively look
all
for
that
things to
matters to
exploit.
me. I'm not looking to become a millionaire doing this right now. I'm fighting a war. I'm fighting my own war right now. I quit my
Yeah,
job. I'm doing this full time. and my wife and kids are being very supportive of it. So if you can, subscribe as a paid subscriber, that's
Yeah.
very helpful. And to my followers that are watching this, the same to Chris, please, because Chris is literally in a war zone, and we need him to continue reporting. And I appreciate everybody who's here, all your comments and everything. Thank you so much for listening, because honestly, without you guys listening, what we're doing is kind of pointless. So,
Amen.
thank you.
I always say, I feel weird if I was just sitting here staring at my camera talking into the camera.
Yeah.
So, hi everybody. Maybe someone sees this, so when I know we have people who are watching, and they're very, again, to compliments to our supporters. You guys are why I'm not going to lose faith, and you're why even when I go through my deepest dark, I go through some dark moments around here, and the way I get out of it every time is like, get the fuck up. Someone out there trusts that you're going to go work today to get something done. And before we go to the American side, it's a Ukrainian mom, like the way this flag in the background, the Marine flag here. The wife who gave this to me, my friend Anastasia, her husband came home from captivity last October 14th, and she gave me this flag that's hung in front of the president's office because she knew there was this one American that would run down the hill with a backpack of camera stuff. And I funny to watch. I'm sure it's a funny sight to watch me running down the hill
Me
with the
too.
camera like, huh. And
Yeah,
I'm
me
getting
too.
up there and I drop everything down to record 1 minute of silence that we have at 9 o'clock in the morning. And she goes, but he does it, but he shows up. And the fact that I do that is because when I'm and this is for our viewers, when you're in that trauma, I totally understand it. But get up in the morning and remember someone else counts on you to do something and kind of get out of your own stuff. Because I know that that's my only magic secret is I just get out of my own stuff and remember someone else needs me to focus. And this Substack, God bless you all. I really,
And
really
can
do.
I can
So,
I say
brother,
something to the Ukrainian people that follow you and watch you and who are
absolutely, of
fighting in
course,
their own way? You guys, as an
absolutely,
American, in America, who actually served in 2 tours in Iraq, which is not the same compared to what you guys are going through and have been going through. I just wanted to
yeah,
say that the entire country and the people of Ukraine have become this light to every other country in the world that faces the possibility of being oppressed, invaded,
right,
or attacked by any other country. And that includes the people of those countries, including myself. Like, you guys have given everybody so much hope. I remember the day reading about the citizens coming together and building Molotov cocktails out of liquor that they had in their homes to
right,
help the front lines and fight. Like, I remember just thinking to myself, holy shit. Like,
right,
that day, and that was early on, by the way. That was early on. I thought to myself, they are going to be okay. This is going to suck. This is going to
right,
be the worst thing that they're going to probably experience, but they're going to
sure,
be okay. They're going to make it out. They're going to conquer, because of what the people did not even hesitate to do.
right,
And keep doing that, guys, seriously, because you give everybody else hope. You are honestly the glowing light of the world right now. And I hope that you, when that comes from me, I hope that means something. I know I'm not there, but I have seen the worst of the worst. I've felt the worst of the worst. I've done
yeah.
some terrible things too, obviously, because I've been in those situations. I keep fighting.
War is hell. War is
War is
hell.
hell, and if it's with information, if it's with showing up, if it's with just having conversations, keep doing it. It all matters, okay? You guys are doing great, and you will prosper, I promise.
Well, we're gonna do this a lot because I can tell you they're gonna be bugging my comms to make sure we do it good.
Oh, well, thanks,
Big
guys.
big
All
big love to you, brother, and we'll see you soon, man.
right, thanks, guys. Have a good one.
All right. God bless America. Slava Ukraini, Heroям Slava, і пиздець Російської Федерації.